Good evening, everyone. I had planned to stand up because I wanted you to see how worried I am as well as to hear it. So I thought those of you at the back would be able to see that as well. So I'm the Managing Director of Oxford Computer Consultants, an IT company. I'm also the chairman of something called the Oxford Trust. We support about 40 of the region's most important and high-growth companies in innovation, research and development. So I represent their voice as well as that for my own company. And I want to talk about the impact that Brexit is already having. People say Brexit will do this and will do that, but actually we fail to realise quite how much of an impact it's already had on business. And I'm going to talk about four main areas: recruitment and retention, which Andrew's already mentioned, research and development, costs, and legislation. So in recruitment and retention, we already have a huge problem. The IT industry is a hugely competitive and global industry. There are shortages of professionals throughout Europe, and we are competing on a scale with all the other countries in Europe. We have suddenly become far less attractive to people to come here. We become less attractive because they're unsure about their status. But we've also become unattractive because of what's happened to the pound. People talk about the economy, that GDP hasn't shifted, that the prices of houses has risen. Look, the country's for sale. It's 20% cheaper than it was 18 months ago. The whole place has just gone on a big discount, and so people from other countries who think of coming here and who think they might want one day to go back to their countries, effectively have taken a 20% pay cut. So we've had to compensate that. We've seen a huge rise in our costs and in our labour costs. It's the only way we can keep key people. And what does that mean? It means we have to pass on a lot of those costs to our clients. And a lot of our clients are in the health and social care space. So that means their administration and infrastructure costs have risen. So when people tell you that there will be more money for health and social care as a result of Brexit, that's not true. There will be less money as costs rise across the board because of the costs of getting the skilled people and the people to come to this country. They will just need to be paid more. So it's a huge problem. And then there's also the psychological problem. I spend a lot of time in France and Germany with clients, and people just feel bad about Britain. They just don't think we're welcoming. And I have first-hand experience of this. My wife is French, 28 years she's been in Britain. And we're going through a horrendous process. There's a 3-stage process that she's got to go through. Registration, a document that was so intrusive, asking for copies of child benefits and everything we've had. We finally got through that. Now she's got to do the Knowledge of Britain test after 28 years. And I'll tell you what, it's not easy. So here's one of the questions. What is the minimum age to become an MP in Britain? Anybody want to shout out the answer? Okay, turns out there is no minimum age, right? Which does explain a few things, doesn't it? Quite. So there we are. However, she has learned that Geoffrey Boycott was a cricketer, and for that I am at least grateful for the process. And when we're through that stage, then she has to apply to become a British citizen. Again, another form containing mainly the same information, but including an £800 cheque that the government would like to receive from my wife, who's been here for 28 years, supporting me to grow and run my business. It's outrageous. And she's not one example. The country and Oxfordshire is full of these people. So people have mobility, and if they're looking for mobility, Britain will no longer be a major choice for these people, and the costs and the scarcity of resources will become worse. Then research and development. Now look, I've been doing research work in Europe for many years, and actually I'm not a huge fan of how it worked, and I thought it was very inefficient. And the problem is that as we leave Europe, it's very unclear whether there's going to be a replacement. If there was good research that was supported at national level with connections into Europe, that could work. But actually we've been left in complete limbo. We do not know what's going to happen to our research funding going forwards. And as a result of which, all the European partners and contacts we've built up said, we don't know, you might be in the programme, you might not. But in the meantime, we won't involve you in any of our projects. So we've had an 18-month gap where we haven't had an opportunity to get involved in new research projects. It's a huge dent in our innovation and our capacity to grow and build opportunities in Oxfordshire. And then costs. This fall in the pound rarely gets mentioned. I guess because a lot of the people who voted for Brexit don't perhaps go abroad a lot. But actually, if you're dealing with Europe, we're dealing with European employees, dealing with the cost of Europe, as I said, we're 20% more expensive or cheaper, whichever way you look at it, than we were. So all the infrastructure, all the software, everything we need to buy in from any part of the world has gone up in costs, and we're having to pass that on to our customers. So it's a real dent on what we can do for business and for the markets. And then there are things like legislation, again, not very politically talked about, but there are small examples. So, for example, a lot of our business opportunities are run on these websites that have .eu domain names. Now, that may not mean much to some of you, but actually we're probably going to lose the right to use those. So we're going to have to rebrand and repurpose a lot of the business tools that we use in order to get back to where we started from. A huge waste of time and money that will set us back further. So what should happen next? Well, look, we're here because we believe that there needs to be another opportunity for the British people to decide. But we need to be a little bit more intelligent about this. We need to understand that across this country, there are a huge number of disaffected people who voted for Brexit for two reasons. One, immigration, and the other one is this sense of inequality and lack of opportunities through the country. So in requesting a referendum, we need to be smarter about this. We need to understand that immigration does need to be addressed. But if you looked at the recent immigration report, what it actually showed is that 75% of immigration is from outside Europe, that European immigrants are net contributors of £800 per annum to our economy, and that non-European immigrants are a net cost of £2,100 to our economy. So if the government wanted to tackle immigration, there is a mechanism that it could have been done with. It's like taking medication for good cholesterol to get rid of all your cholesterol. It's completely crazy. But there is a political will, and if there was a political will to actually address the problem, then you get a lot more people on side with the idea that Brexit is not the solution to the immigration problem. In fact, Brexit is completely the wrong solution. And we also need to get more serious about the redistribution of wealth and opportunities. I travel a lot around this country. I spend time in Halifax and in the northeast, and this perception that the South had it easy and good, and that this is some sort of retribution and a way of balancing it out, is strongly felt in those parts of the country. And politicians have failed to grasp that fact and have failed to offer a solution to that, so people took Brexit as the only solution they could find. We need to offer political solutions, and then we'll get people on board with what we're trying to ask for, which is for people to think sensibly again. Thank you.
Thank you.